So it seems as though situations have actually became very real in this episode. Like just things that were kind of like sitting in the background now are like bam, right in the foreground. That's what has happened in this episode of Queen Sugar. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Queen Sugar Season 5, Episode 2. As I said, everything kind of, there was the pandemic situation was kind of, they spoke about it a little bit, but it's becoming very real. Um, the way it was depicted on the show is the way it really did happen in real life. The way it was kind of like people were flicking TVs off and not really paying that much attention at first. And then all of a sudden, it got to a point where you couldn't really ignore it anymore. And it became very real. And they did a good job of depicting that in the storyline here. Um, Also, the situation with Nova and Calvin and the family migration situation became very, very real. You know, playtime's over, the fairy tale's over. Let's get down to it. First things first, Charlie goes, she had an appointment with Parker. So she goes down to the office. Parker's not there. She's canceled the meeting and she just was gone. Um, her secretary said, "Oh, she cleared her whole schedule for today," and she's like, "Really?" With no phone call, no nothing. I was supposed so that you can have a seat if you want to wait. You know, she said, "My time is very valuable, and to cancel a meeting with no phone call or anything is substandard and it's unacceptable. You pass that along." And baby, she went on up out of there. I said, "Okay, Charlie." You know how Charlie is, child. She went on, and then she pulled a couple strings, found out Parker had left to go to New York, like abruptly. I said she only had one bag, and she dashed off and went to New York. Was what her little intel person at the airport told her, and that was, and when that conversation happened, is when we kind of saw that they were working the pandemic thing, and she said, "Wait a minute, why is things?" Because he was saying things are getting quiet around here at the airport, and she's like, "Why?" And he started saying, things about the virus and the spread, and people were saying this and people were saying that. I said, "Okay, here we go. This is what we get ready to do now." So we go into that. Charlie and Nova end up having a conversation, and I love this scene because this scene was actually them speaking about her, just being nervous and about going to meet the family at the grandfather's birthday party and all of that. And Charlie was just telling her, "You're a queen. Be yourself, honey. You hold your head up and you walk in there, you know." And I said, "Whoa!" I loved this scene because we've been here with the Borderline family, and this felt like old times. This scene felt like old times. I said, "Okay, so Nova and Charlie are forging their bond back together as sisters the way it used to be." And I just felt good about the scene. It felt really good, and it did feel like old times. Next, there was a scene between Prosper and Hollywood. Mr. Prosper was talking kind of off. They're talking about they're working on the little space, that Hollywood is opening up. It's like sort of like a man cave type of business, a club for a men's club or whatever. And Mr. Prosper was saying, how it's really good, to have it back because they used to have a club like that, but then it was gone. People just said the guys could come there and actually talk when things are going wrong. He's like, "There's always things going wrong around here," but he said it just people just stopped talking and it just didn't exist anymore. So he was really happy to see it coming back. And then he started to kind of talk. He's like, "Well, what's going on, Mr. Prosper?" And Prosper kind of was saying to Hollywood about the virus, and you could see the fear because what's being said is that the virus actually does attack elders, which we know now it really does. It's, older people are definitely a target, which there are a lot of older people in St. Joe's. So, again, this was the point where it started to get very real for me. I said, this is where we're going. It's going getting very real. St. Joe's has an old school way of handling things, and the COVID is not that at all. You got to get on board. You got to get with the shit, and come on. It's not the old school remedy. Ain't always the old school type of living is what we've been thrust into. How we do things and how we kind of really watch, and we're going back to doing things the old way and not, depending on technology all the time is what COVID is throwing us into. But that old school thinking, that little salve and a little serum is going to, no, baby, this ain't that. We not there. So it's worrisome, And I said to myself sitting right there, I said, just let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, you writers over there. This doggone COVID stuff better not touch Prosper, and it better not touch our vibe. I ain't ready. I ain't ready for that. Mr. Prosper was sick for a while, and it wore us out. It completely wore us out a few seasons ago when Mr. Prosper was not doing well. So, I ain't ready for nothing to happen to Prosper. I'm sorry, I'm not, and I definitely ain't ready for nothing to ever happen to Aunt Vi. So, and I hope that's not where we're going. But okay, I'm just saying that's me. That's me on my soapbox. I'm getting down off my soapbox. But boom, bam, I'm back. Come on, let's go. So okay, so that was that. Hollywood basically told Mr. Prosper, "Don't worry about it. We got you. That virus will have to go through all of us at St. Joe's before we let it get to you." I said, "That's right. That's right, Hollywood. That sounds good, but you ain't met Rona yet. She's something else. She's a whole bitch, that Rona." But yeah, it sounded good. I think it really did put Mr. Prosper's mind at ease a little bit. So anyway, take a break for a second, y'all. Check this out. www.chestrésor.com. Ooh. Okay, all right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Ciao. Be safe, honey. Be safe and look good while you're doing it. Anyway, okay, all right. So, Calvin's mother. This was so interesting. When we got Calvin and Nova walking into the party. Calvin's mother, she was surprisingly like, "Oh, Nova, it's so good to see you." I said, "Oh, okay." "Oh, yeah, girl, go out here," and this, that, and the other. I mean, she was very welcoming. Very welcoming and seemed very genuine. I said, "Oh, that was too easy." And she's like, "Yeah, so make yourself at home. We want to go around, and I've made some time so we can have a little girl talk later. I can't wait. You're just, Calvin, she's more beautiful than I thought she would be, the way you said. She's more beautiful than that." I said, "Uh-huh." And then the daughter came in, his little daughter came in, and she met Nova, and she was cool. Nova they told her that Nova picked out her little necklace. She put the necklace on her. The grandfather kind of looked like, "Who is this black woman, honey? Who is she? Why is she here?" And she gave him that old scotch, honey. He was like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you." I said, And then we saw the mother kind of leering over. I said, I knew that went too easy. That mother, I was looking at how that mother was looking when Nova was talking with the granddaughter. I said, girl, you pulled a fancy. That was fake. All that, how you was so excited. Girl, you look a little worried. Why? A little bit later on, honey, they out back, honey. They see the son. The son's a little older. He's a teenager. And he just kind of was like real dismissive, like, yeah, okay, nice to meet you. And went on. Calvin said, don't worry about Nova. He's still a little upset about the whole divorce and everything. And then they looked over, and then I understood why Mama's face was like that. She had invited Haley, honey. So the ex-wife, Haley's the ex-wife. The ex-wife was actually invited. Mama knew. Mama knew the ex-wife was coming. Mm-hmm. And she stood up there. I said, ooh, shady, honey. And anyway, that Haley came right over, baby, and jumped right into the mess, honey. Jumped over there, and Nova was like, oh, she's like, Nova, is it? She said, yes. She says, hello, Haley. It's nice to meet you. She says, oh, so I see you met my kids. She says, yes, they're great. She said, they're great kids. She says, oh, that's great. Given how you destroyed our family and took their father away. I said, oh, and Calvin was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So they were going to walk away from her, and she turned around there and said, Nova, how does it feel to be the other woman? How does it feel to know you're the other woman? And as he told you, he has a certain type. Yeah, the darker the better, and it's sweeter and all of that. But you're kind of thin for the ones that he usually likes. See, they're all interchangeable. Isn't that right, Calvin? Oh, she thought she was the only one? Oh, no, he likes your kind of girl. But usually, you're kind of skinny. He usually likes them a little bigger, with the big butts and all of that. I saw, oh, and as she walked back up on her, she said, Haley, watch yourself. Watch yourself, honey. I said, She got to really go in there with her, honey. Listen. How long she going to last, Calvin? Until the next one comes along? She's not the first. She won't be the last. Honey, Calvin turned around and came back there and told her, she's the only one that I've ever loved. And I mean that. When I say the only one, everyone, and I do mean everyone else, was just me passing time until she'd have me. Oh, baby, when I tell you Miss Haley's face cracked, honey, I said, oh, baby, the tears welled up in her. I said, because you was talking all that good shit just there a minute ago, Miss Haley. Miss Haley, you thought you was breaking it and shutting it down. Baby, I said, oh, honey. Got you. He slayed her, honey. She was so hurt. I said, oh, girl, baby, they walked on out of there. And then they had a little conversation there later on, honey, where she was like, is that it? Calvin, are you fetishizing me? Because you know how I get down. You know where I come from. You know I ain't down with that at all. And he just basically, it was crazy. She let Haley get into her head. He told her, It's not that I have a thing for black women. Yes, I've dated other black women. Well, why didn't you ever say anything? He said, you never told me about the men you dated. And there's been many. You ain't disclosed to me about the men you've dated. And then he just reassured her, about the love that he had for her. And that was all. That's what she needed to hear. But I can't believe, Nova, you actually let Miss Haley get up in your head like that, girl. I thought you were giving good restraint to keep from smacking her, because she really deserves smacked with all that. The ones with the big butts and all, all that. What you mean, Haley, bitch? Girl. She told her, watch yourself, Miss Haley. Anyway. So Darla And Ralph Angel are running around they're putting things together for this wedding. Just getting some plans together. And she realized, he said he wanted to go to New York. She said, let you pick what we would do for the honeymoon. Since I could have my dream wedding, you could have your dream honeymoon. He said, I would like to go to New York and catch one of those shows or something. I've never done that before. Cool. So she's saying, everything will be fine. She said, I know it's a lot on you or whatever. So she's planning on trying to get her a job and all that. So Charlie had stopped by, and went over some things with her to help her prepare for an interview. And I'm only doing this, but y'all know I don't do Darla. Everything about Darla I could do without. But we're going to talk about it because it was part of the show. But you know how I feel about Darla. It just is what it is. I mean, Raw is happy and Darla's happy and the baby's happy for now. But she's, she always has so many issues. And Charlie told her, you come in with the attitude of you be lucky to have me, not, oh, please, I really need this job. Perfect. Perfect. Ralph Angel was paying attention as well to the things that Charlie was saying. Yes, because a hint of desperation never works in your favor. It just doesn't. So that was really good advice, Charlie. That's why I decided to go ahead and talk about it in the review. Because I would have skipped right past the whole Darla and Raw situation. I will skip all the way past them, all the way till they have a wedding. But I'm be nice. Anyway, moving on. So Charlie talks to Micah. Her and the dad is going up for a homecoming. They go up there for the homecoming. He tells her, no, don't meet me in my dorm. My dorm is a mess. Meet me out here in the in this common area. They get there. It's during homecoming, and Kiki is there as well and everything. And you see the new fraternity, the fraternity he joined. They're actually doing this unveiling of the new brothers. And they're like, Charlie and the father were sitting there. They're like, she said, I can't believe Micah's missing all this. Honey, Micah's standing right there in front of their face, but they had masks on. Baby, when he had masks, honey, you could have bought the mother and father, honey, for $25. They was like, really? Come to find out, here it is, the fraternity that he pledged doesn't have a really great reputation. They're a little militant, if you will. Classic Micah. She's like, why didn't you go? You could just went with your father's fraternity. And he said, I don't have to check in with you and tell you about these things. I'm not a child. And so she's like, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was overstepping the boundaries. And I okay, he checked her and she took it. She took it. But said you could have went with your father's fraternity. He said, I checked them out too, but I made my decision. You should be able to live with my decision. She's like, but Micah, their reputation. She said, I went to my father's fraternity and they didn't want me. And she's like, but Micah, all you had to do is call your father. He said, I didn't want to get in like that. Now, all that I understand. All that I do understand. I understand that. And he is in the search of trying to find himself. But all this militant black man stuff, it's like, oh my God. Okay. Again, do what you need to do to get to where you need to get to, Micah. He's just in a constant turmoil. And then he's seeing Kiki talking to this little guy who was running a little smoothie stand. He's a friend from a class. He done got an attitude. And he goes over there, just like boys do with their dumb asses, and he gonna go start dancing with one of the girls. And Kiki served him. She's cracked his face. They had a conversation about it later. He thought he had got there. She was like, Micah, what do I care about that? I don't care about that. I said, well, who's that guy? It's like, oh, he's a friend. He's from your class, whatever. I said, the girl cracked his face. His face was cracked just like Miss Haley's. You didn't get to her. You the one whose feelings was hurt with the dumb stuff. You're a mess. Anyway, moving on. Last thing we see, Charlie ends up getting a call. Immediate. She needs to be on to this conference. They have the conference. The pandemic has become very real. very real, and it's been burst into, you know, reality, and we now are like having to shut St. Joe's down. Um, and St. Joe's, they made the decision to shut St. Joe's down ahead of the government telling them shut it down, which was very smart. Because again, they do. I mean, look at the residents. You have a lot of older residents, so they made a good call on that. And that was the last thing we seen. Like I said, it got really, really real. She made a phone call to Aunt Vi, and she was telling Aunt Vi, you know, Vi's Pies is going to have to be shut down right now because this thing is real. This is really happening. And that's when I was like, oh, not my Aunt Vi, honey. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Listen, I'm getting ready to leave out of here tonight with this with y'all. I can't do it. Not right now. I can't do it. I can't do it with Mr. Prosper, and I can't do it with Aunt Vi. I just can't do it right now. I can't. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week. I'll see y'all next week. Y'all know we love this Queen Sugar, honey. This did it seem like the episode went by really fast. It went by fast. There wasn't a whole lot to it, but it didn't drag at all. It really went by fast. Yeah, it was good though. Buzz me some Queen Sugar. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Later. Touch my hand, and Mr. Prosper. Leave him alone.